were just enough lights on every time late enough at night. I was like, well, maybe someone just leave there just to keep an eye on the property. I don't know.
Maybe they leave the lights on for that reason.
Maybe that could be it right
I
there.
think when I was at school, the lights were on in that building.
Were they?
When they were building school?
When they were building the school.
Yeah, the lights were left on a lot.
So Marcus is in Washington DC.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'd want to be in
I don't think I would
Washington,
right
DC.
now.
Is he there for college or for another reason?
Oh, I believe he's there for
Is
school.
this short term?
I think he's going to be there for the rest of the semester. I don't think he'll
Oh,
be
is he?
back here.
Oh, okay.
So he'll be on the phone?
I hate touching doors in case.
I know.
Hi, how are you?
Listen,
Yes, I will listen.
Yeah, just let me know.
Melissa's intending to be here. There she comes. We got less than a minute. How are we calling Marcus?
Wanda's doing that right now.
Okay.
No,
I was gonna double check. You have to run.
No. I don't think we need notarizing, but for all practical, there are 3 of these will look the same. One is a vellum copy. Yep.
Remember what Yeah, I do. Very much.
I'm Melissa.
It is 6, but we're going to be pushing it back. Sure. Now, Elm one? Yeah, that one right there. That's right there. It's actually a Mylar, it's not Elm.
He did request a central location,
Yeah, let's try to do that. Hi, Marcus. All right, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. Well, we are just going to start here in just a moment. We're going to put you as centrally located as we can. But I believe we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance right now. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I wonder if we can put a chair like right in the middle and set this phone on that.
You're in luck, Marcus, you get a cushy chair.
Wonderful.
Okay, so I'm actually saying that we started at 6:01, not 6 p.m. I'm assuming everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda. I would need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Marcus, just for your information, Melissa made the motion and Darla seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we're going to use a roll call vote. Marcus, how do you vote?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And Linda?
Aye.
5 yes. We will move on to public input.
I have just a couple things. As a result of my comments on the cemetery, I had a couple people contact me and describe some problems they had, but I just wanted to note that. Fees, do the fees that we have include the fees that are charged at the cemetery?
The fees at the cemetery are in the ordinance of transfer of deed to the Pleasant Hill to the city.
Okay, so, but they would appear on the rest of the, when you put the fees up on the website, that those would be included in that?
It'll probably be in something different, but yes.
Under a cemetery heading, probably.
Oh, okay, I was just checking.
Did you
Website,
get that, Marcus?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
under the website, are we still not up yet?
Not yet.
Okay. One thing I want to bring up, and it was drawn to my attention by someone else, and I knew of it, and it deals with the ambulance and the fire department, and I'm only bringing it to you in reference to when you take somebody on as a volunteer roster, just to be aware of that for the ambulance, and I don't know about the fire department, but I know for the ambulance, we could not, when I was on it, allow felons, convicted felons, to be on the ambulance. Just so you guys know, so you're aware. So if there would be one and it would show up on the work comp, I don't know if that would create any type of liability from the city, but I'm just bringing that forward for your information. Okay? And that's all I have.
So are you saying that there is a felon?
Yeah, unfortunately. So, it's not an EMT that I'm aware of unless this person is taking the course. But I just wanted to let you guys know that, and I can't quote the statute or the administrative rule or whatever that has that, but when I was on the ambulance, we could not allow anybody that we knew that had a felony conviction, just because of the vulnerability of the patient. So I just wanted to let you guys know. I don't know how that might affect the city since you cover the work comp, or you put them on the roster, just so that you knew that the ambulance had to work with that, just so you were aware of that situation.
And you're 100% certain that this person is a felon?
Reasonably so, yes.
I think we should be checking with someone at the state level or whatever.
I think the state does, Jack. I mean, I just don't think they're allowed to be involved unless they're checked out, but I'll verify that with the director.
I'm just curious, if they perform, like we only put people on the roster because they perform service for the ambulance or fire department, right? Like we don't choose who actually ends up being a volunteer?
No.
Right.
Okay.
But if they are a volunteer, then we put them, we either approve or don't approve them as being on the roster.
Thank you.
So, if I may, is there any other public input? I had somebody from the public contact me today at work, and they actually showed me video of two separate instances where the snow removal team or crew had gone by their property. Now they're just like, I've got a ring on my doorbell, and it picks up every single car that goes down Park Avenue. So just like that, their cameras pick up everything that goes by, and it automatically senses movement and it picks it up. And you can actually tell these two vehicles are moving down at the same direction. They're moving toward the east, and it would be on Anderson Drive. And as they go, the camera picks up the movement, and it's a truck with a blade on the front, and it's moving at such and such a speed. Impossible to tell how fast, but then a little while later you can see the, I don't know, we would call it an articulated loader, but of course it's got a blade on the front. However, it's got a wing blade on it, so he's got to move a little faster, and he went by, and she said to me, I think he's going way faster. Well, then we watched it, and we kind of tried to count, because of course the camera picks up the movement, and it takes a second for it to turn on. And you can see it moved a little further into the field before it was picked up. But it was not, I mean, twice as fast. It was not even probably half, and not even 50% faster. But it was faster. But again, it has to do with what they're doing. If they're just simply pushing the snow just slightly from the center to the side, that's different than if they're going by with a wing to try to get it up and out of the actual street bed. So I think it's something that we need to be aware of, and I think that Lonnie is aware of it, and I think he is careful. I'm just hoping that, you know, Parker, anybody else that's involved is equally as careful. So
I would offer up this information. If 22 feet, if you cover 22 feet in less than a second, that means you're going over 15 miles per hour. Because I had waypoints set up earlier because I had some kids from school that were passing each other on Lincoln. And so I had waypoints set up so I could view it on the camera and I could check it
and
by
again,
the count.
it depends on what kind of plow they're doing. Anyway, just so we've actually got video that we can look at, and we can see just exactly how fast they're moving. And I'm sure that I've got video from my Ring doorbell. I haven't looked at it. So, is there any other public input? Hearing none.
I had some phone calls on masks, but
Oh.
we'll just talk about it later.
That's a valid point. I also had an individual here in town give me their opinion on masks, and I think you're right. I think it can be brought up later. It could be considered public input because it's coming from members of the community, but it's just their opinion. So we'll discuss that more. That's a good point. Is there any other public input? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 5, Alderman's statement. I believe Melissa has the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to make the announcement that I will not be running for re-election. And the reason for bringing this up is first and foremost to thank the people of Ward 1 for trusting me with the job, and to thank all of you for being wonderful to work with. Purely personal, I just don't think it's fair to the people of Ward 1 for me to run for re-election when I don't think I can commit to the full 3-year term. I would rather see that fulfilled by somebody who can put in the full 3 years, and at this time I'm not sure that that is something I can do. And I also want to offer my, I wouldn't say guidance, but if somebody is interested and they want more information on what exactly that position entails, I'm happy to answer any questions, mentor that person along the way, and hopefully Darla and Linda, when the time comes, you two are prepared to mentor the newcomers, as there could be a lot. So, and I also hope that several members of the community step up in every ward and throw their hats in the ring and run for election.
Your input has been very much appreciated as well. So don't think that any of us are sitting here saying, oh, thank goodness that you're not going to seek election, or seek re-election, I should say. Is there any other topic you want to cover or not?
Nope, that was it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Marcus, if you're not able to hear something, please tell us that you need to have it repeated.
I can hear you guys just fine.
Excellent. We'll move on to number 6, department updates, and we start with Parker at the cemetery.
Did you guys get that paper that was printed off?
Thank you.
Yep. So I went on ahead and got a few quotes like you guys said to do last meeting. And I think I found the lowest that we're gonna be able to get it for through J&W Small Engine in Ironton, Iowa. And that's cheapest attachments and cheapest mower by itself.
The D&D didn't provide you a price with attachments?
Their attachments were outrageous, so I was gonna get attachments through a cheaper source. I was just going off mower base itself.
So apples to apples, actually D&D is a whopping $100 cheaper, but with the attachment bundle, for lack of a better word, I suppose J&W sounds like a better deal anyway.
Yeah, they're $100 cheaper for the. They're $100 cheaper for the 2020 model. J&W is the 2021.
Oh, I'm
model.
sorry, it's not apples for apples, yes, I see that, okay.
And the guy at J&W said that he talked to his retail source, and they said to lower it down to $8,250 instead of the $8,500. So he took another $250 off, and then, like I said, he has the cheapest attachments that you can get through all 3 sources.
They provide good service.
Yeah, he sounds like a pretty nice guy.
We've had a hustler from them at the golf course for several years, and if you need parts or belts or whatever, they'll provide you some service.
And that's what these are, right, hustlers?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Hustler X1, it's 3rd stage commercial. So, and the 2021 model is actually heavier duty deck, heavier duty bushings and pins, and it's all powder coated instead of painted. So, structurally more sound, I guess.
So your recommendation then is $9,204.50 at J&W Small Engine, Ironton, for the 2021 X1 Kawasaki 850 60-inch.
Yes, sir.
Well, that is the recommendation, folks. We would need a motion to approve that if we're going to do that.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a 2021 X1 Kawasaki 850 engine, 60-inch side discharge mower with attachments from J&W Small Engine in Ironton for a price of $9,204.50. The Pleasant Hill Cemetery Fund will pay for that.
I'll second that.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded, as you can see by the paper that was provided with the quotes. It will be the center section for $9,204.50. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Marcus, how do you vote?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
5 yes. All right, more is on its way. Anything else you can tell us about the cemetery, how things are going and so on? Ground's probably frozen, I mean, yes,
Yeah,
pretty quiet, I suppose.
yeah. Yeah, not a whole lot has gone on out there. We did notice a tree when I was driving around after work today, that a new tree we put in was starting to tip, so I gotta take care of that tomorrow morning.
Oh,
Retighten the paracord that we got around to hold them up.
Now, Wednesday and Thursday are supposed to be pretty decent as far as weather goes, so
Yeah.
you might actually gain some ground by even tamping in some dirt around it or whatever.
Yeah, I think it was just the strong winds from that last
Oh, I'm
snowstorm.
sure, yeah. Yeah. Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to letter B, Police Department, Chief Christie.
Yeah.
Before you begin, how are you doing, Chief?
Hey, good. I'm not dead. I'm out of the hospital. So, yeah, scary deal.
You feel still a little weak sometimes, a little tired, a little fatigued?
My lungs took a hit. But,
Yeah.
it'll be a while till they, I guess, are 100%. But bad pneumonia. So, yeah.
Glad to see you standing.
Yeah, no, I feel good.
Yeah.
A lot of,
Okay, sorry.
No, good to go. So my big thing is presidential mandate after the Minneapolis events. A lot of anti-chokehold deals. Trump ended up signing a presidential mandate, sent down to the state levels. Every agency, this got kicked out when I was in the hospital, but every agency, if you want to continue to receive or be able to receive federal grant funding in the future, you have to put an anti-chokehold policy in your deadly force. Basically listing a chokehold as deadly force. So every agency that puts it in their policy, you're still eligible for federal grants in the future. So this has to be done by January 31st?
I think so.
Yeah, so at the end of this month. So we try to kick out a new deadly force policy to you guys. You guys should have all have copies. Ran it through city attorney. Not that we can't adjust this in the future. In fact, I know we had started on a new whole PD policy manual that it's not done yet. We're not completely through and we haven't read it as a council. But I guess we're not opposed to looking at it in the future if there's changes that get brought up. But we just needed something on paper so we're not excluded from this federal grant money. So that's where I'm at with it.
So for all practical purposes, your notes, and I believe that's your writing,
Yes.
both policy, new policy, 1 through 3, new deadly force policy, 1 through 7 are completely removed
Yeah.
on the first page.
And
8 through 10 have been moved to a completely different section, have nothing to do with deadly force except for their firearms.
And they should, I don't believe they should have ever been in the deadly force policy, so they should have been underneath firearms anyways. I hated our deadly force policy as is. I know when we went through it, Melissa and I both were not in favor of it, so it's kind of good that we're axing it in the first place. So.
How do you feel about the verbiage of 1, A, B, and 2, and 3 on the new policy? Is it pretty
I mean, it's
straightforward?
yeah, pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. Okay.
Always, and you know, with deadly force policy, I'm looking at our city attorney as well for their blessing because it's you know, it's something that can get brought up. If we do have an officer involved shooting away, it's something that's going to probably be gone through the microscope. So I'm glad to have Sam on board with this. I wish I could have had it to you guys sooner. I apologize, but this got kicked down really fast, and I was in the hospital. Immediately started working on it. Our agencies, I guess, or our city's a little bit different. A lot of the other agencies aren't as worried about it. They don't have to have city council approval on their policies. So a lot of those agencies we'll worry about it on the 30th. I gotta get ahead of this a little bit because this is kind of how we operate. So I needed it on this agenda before the 31st. And then if you guys were to approve this tonight, basically I would submit it to the state through training and standards and commissions through the state, and they would say, okay, and then they would forward a report to the feds, and we would then be eligible for grant funding in the future.
And so then I draw your attention to Resolution 2021-2, and you'll see that that is the resolution updating the deadly force policy. Any other input you'd like to give, Chief, before we talk
Just
about?
answer any questions if you guys have any. I don't expect you guys to think like cops. You know, that's why you hired me. We looked at some larger agencies, put their put their policies online. It's a public document at that point, and we look for insight from them. And I think it's cut and dry, but it gets us meeting the standards, so we're not excluded from grants, and we can always address issues if you find them in the future. I think it's a pretty cut and dry, good policy. So, any questions?
I do have one question. In point 2, one second, let me see what sentence it is. I'm pretty sure it's the last sentence. This is the one that starts, these force options shall not be used. I'm just thinking that we're gonna have to rephrase that just a little bit so that it matches the first sentence. Because that one seems to me to limit it to these force options, whereas the first sentence demonstrates that it's not limited.
Maybe how about just eliminating the word these? Force
Yeah,
options.
like, if we just said something like deadly force options shall not be used, like, yeah, I think that would cover it then.
Well, I don't want to do that, and I'll tell you why, Marcus, because once I choose deadly force, it really opens up anything. It even opens up chokeholds. If I'm to the point where I can use deadly force, and again, I don't want to get too wrapped around the axle, but if I've chosen to use deadly force as an officer, at that point, anything's acceptable. Because it's either lights out for me or lights out for them.
Right?
So,
Or some other citizen, or,
does that make sense, what I'm saying?
yeah, I believe so.
So is your these force options, is that only applying to just one of these things? Because the way I'm reading it is even if I just say these force options, that still includes chokeholds.
Right.
And it does.
I'm just saying, like, if we amended it to just say, like, deadly force options shall not be used, then we're not necessarily limiting deadly force. I mean, if you want to limit deadly force, that's fine too.
No.
But then I would just say that our sentence 1 would have to be amended, so that way we're not saying that it's not limited to.
Well,
Does that make sense?
but sentence number 1 does say, may include but are not limited to. So
Yeah,
it,
that's my point though, is like if we say that it's not limited to, but then the later sentence says these force options shall not be used, it's only applying to the force options we listed.
which are not limited to all those force options we've listed.
See, I think you could read that to limit, because usually when you have specific language, it limits over general unlimited language.
Chief, did you borrow this from some other department?
I mean, there was insight from a couple of departments, correct? Yep, large departments.
What do you think, Sam?
You could go either way. I mean, I understand Marcus's point. What you're trying to say is you don't get to use deadly force, whatever it is deadly force, unless the situation permits. I think the policy as written provides adequate guidance for, we've listed a non-exclusive list of these things and said you can't use them, or by extension deadly force, unless you're in a situation where it's usable. So
Warranted.
I think it's fine as written. I mean, I think Marcus makes a technically correct point. I think it's okay the way it is. And to the chief's point, if it's something we want to clean up later, we can certainly do that.
Mayor Hayter, may I ask a question?
Sure.
On number 3, under the deadly force, I'm concerned about the officer shall immediately provide necessary medical assistance to the subject to the degree in which they are trained and provide emergency medical response where they're needed. That troubles me just a little bit, that it could possibly put, if you've just got one officer and he's administering first aid or whatever, his attention's being diverted, and yes, he needs to try to save the life. But what I'm concerned about is there a possibility that he could be held to a different standard kind of like a conflict. He caused the injury, and now he's trying to mediate the injury. I'm looking at from terms of the officer that for safety reasons on scene, but if there's any kickback later on, that's the only thing I caught that in.
I think it's very logical that the officer would possibly take somebody down and then make sure that they're either A, not dying, or already dead, one or the other. And then, if they're not dying, but they're possibly gonna die, they certainly would call for 911. They probably already have, it's probably already en route, but making sure an ambulance is on its way and, hey, put a Band-Aid on it until the ambulance gets there, whatever. I don't see a problem. Any other input?
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
do you have a response to that?
Ms. Larsen, I understand your concern. I think that this makes sense the way it's written, and you're just, practically speaking, you're never going to expect an officer to provide aid in a situation where doing so puts them in continued risk, or where aid isn't capable of being provided due to some form of lack of cooperation by the person to whom they're trying to render aid. If I'm cranked up on meth and you know, Jeff is trying to stuff me in the car, and I start whacking my head against the, which I've seen happen before, you know, the side of the car, and I start reaching for his gun and stuff, and he's got to deck me, and then he's got to cuff me, and my mouth is cut open and bleeding, and he starts trying to staunch the bleeding because he's helping me out, and I start spitting blood at him and trying to bite him. And then he didn't have to do anything, you know, put me in the car, and that's my problem. You know, I mean, I understand the point you're making, and I think it's a fair observation, but as I read the policy and having, you know, a fairly decent understanding of what our law enforcement officers go through in terms of training, they're going to have the latitude to make the call as to when to render aid and not render aid within, you know, making sure they're looking out for their own safety. He's probably not, you know, we could get into a bunch of scenarios, but generally Jeff or Austin aren't going to do anything if something's wild enough until somebody else shows up, you know, I mean.
Well, in the very first sentence, Sam, it says, once the subject's active resistance has ceased and control has been gained, an officer is no longer authorized to use force. Well, that basically is saying, if he's lying there unconscious, don't keep putting your knee on his neck.
The threat's over at that point.
Exactly. So, now that's not to say that his buddy isn't right around the corner, and it's a good idea to maintain some alert status, but.
In all things we do train for, when the threat's over, then we go into a different mode and you provide care if you can. If there's two people, or we articulate that in our report, hey, there's still a threat and I'm not safe to give him aid, or he still has the gun near him, and there's 100 different scenarios to your point, Sam. So
Sure.
But we do train for that aspect. When the threat's over, we do provide aid if we can.
The short answer, Vicki, is I don't think the policy as proposed puts Jeff or Austin in a bind to where they've got conflicting duties. They're going to be able to take care of themselves and other people, etc. They're never going to get dinged for, hey, you didn't help this guy when he's bleeding because he tried to bite your nose off. You know, they're not going to be in that position where they have to expose themselves to unnecessary risk to render medical aid under the policy as written.
Well, like I said, my point was just the possibility of an accusation, well, you didn't do this correctly. And I get that, but I just wanted to make that point because I have, as an EMT, I was mandated to provide, so I know what's part of that. And when you're standing at the side of the road in the middle of the night, that without a jump kit, that all kinds of bad things can happen. And I just wanted to point that out, if there was a way to clear the language up just a little bit sharper.
Well, it does say to the degree in which they are trained as well, so. if you look at the resolution, I believe that the resolution states virtually all the same information, and I'd like to move on to either approving the resolution as written or disproving it unless there's more discussion that needs to occur.
I move to approve resolution number 2021-2, a resolution of the city of Alcester updating the city's use of deadly force policy pursuant to Executive Order 13929, but with the amendment to section 1B, where it says serious bodily harm, T's defined, to be replaced with the word is.
Oh, yeah, is defined. Good catch.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded for that resolution with one spelling error fixed. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Marcus, how do you vote?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
5 yes. All right, resolution number 2. And we'll move on to letter B, 6B, C, library. Mr. Larsen.
A couple months ago, we had one of our library board members, his job description changed, and he felt he wasn't able to give time to the library board. And I have contacted Kristen Meyer. She has consented if we approve her appointment to be on the library board. Library board meets at least 4 times a year. This will be a 3-year appointment. And just for your information, Josh Carlson, who has been a library board member for the past 3 years as a school representative, has been replaced at the end of his term by Amanda Beeler. So we will have Kristen Meyer, if she's appointed tonight, and Amanda Beeler as 2 new members of the library board. That should fill out the board.
And Amanda's would be a 3-year term as well.
Yes.
But
So-
she's the school side.
Oh, so we don't actually
We
act on
don't,
that.
no.
Okay.
The only thing we have to do is appoint or approve the appointment of Kristen Meyer as a city library board member.
Understood. Any discussion? If none, I would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of Kristen Meyer as a city library board member representative for a 3-year term.
I'll second.
Second.
Marcus, actually Melissa got the word second in just before you did. So Darla made the motion, Melissa seconded it. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Marcus, how do you vote?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And Linda?
Aye.
5 yes. Thanks, Dave. That's good. We'll now move on to item number 7, and that's masks, and specifically discussion regarding masks. And you can see that there is an ordinance there, 2021-01. That is an ordinance that was actually written up, and I believe that Marcus provided it to our legal counsel. He has reviewed it, seen that it was good and acceptable. I thought we also had...
Dave did send one out, didn't you, Dave?
You did, I'm sorry, I did not send that.
Sorry, we didn't get the copies made. Hang on. There's also another one that is, I'm not going to call it an ordinance, I'm going to call it a mask recommendation. So we will be talking about both of these during discussion for a little bit, and then we will probably discuss each one separately. and move whichever direction we move at that point.
Maybe Marcus could start with this exploration.
That's true. Marcus, if you would, yeah, can you give us your take on ordinance 2021-01, please?
Yeah, of course. So this was one obviously from our first discussion at our last meeting where we had all, I believe, been in agreement that something needed to be done. And we kind of debated about what we thought, whether it should have been a citywide mandate or a city office kind of thing. So I wrote this so it applies to our city offices, any city-owned or city-operated building or location, and it just requires that people who enter those buildings wear face coverings, which has a pretty lenient definition, but it has to be something more than just air. And then I do currently have a penalty marked as $100 fine, but I placed that as a placeholder. That was like me just being like, I'm going to put something here that I know we won't all agree on, so that way we have to discuss that and debate it, because $100 seems pretty stiff. I guess if you all want it, that's what it will say. And so this just is kind of from the fact that there's still a global pandemic, it's still a national pandemic, it's still declared a state of emergency for the state of South Dakota. We have a growing body of evidence that demonstrates that face coverings provide control to preventing spread, and that South Dakota as a whole and Union County currently are considerable substantial risks of community spread. So,
Has everyone had an opportunity to review this ordinance? Okay. The document, I think it's very well written. Obviously, Sam, you got your blessing, correct?
Yes.
With the way it was written. We can discuss the individual fine points, if that's what you want to call them, in a few minutes here. Does anybody have any questions of either Marcus or the rest of us? Did we think about X or Y or Z?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Would you be willing to call it a 5-minute recess? So I can use the restroom, please?
absolutely. Marcus, we're just going to take a 5-minute recess here.
while you're doing that, could somebody check the phone to see if it's having an issue? Because I keep getting something like buzzing in my ear.
It's copier, I'll
It
bet.
could be the copier, which is now stopped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just like, what's happening right now?
Yeah, I don't know if that's what it was, but you could be getting some EMI there. How about now? Is it still doing it?
Nope, not yet, so I
Okay.
hope that covered it then.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. So, Marcus, did you get an email version of the document that we're now going to be looking at regarding, Dave Larsen had just put together just a recommendation. I guess COVID-19 response policy is the technical name for it, according to the document.
Yep, I have that.
Okay. Just want to make sure everybody has all of the information, so we'll continue with the recess until Melissa is back here, but.
a constant buzz, it's like a which makes me think it might be like a text message or something coming in.
Oh, that's possible, that it could be the phone itself vibrating. It,
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I was just like, I don't know what this is anymore, and I just checked my headphones, I'm like, it's not my headphones, I don't know.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know how to stop that.
No, I don't know how you do that either.
Well, you can shut off notifications, but
I
I
suppose.
don't even want to go there.
But then you gotta remember to turn it back on.
Marcus, if it happens, you just be aware of the fact that that's what it is.
It might take
Please.
a 15-year-old to figure that out.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't have any 13-year-olds here that can fix the phone, so. So Melissa, you'll be happy to know in your absence that Marcus said that there was some buzzing, and we thought maybe it was a copier or whatever. It turns out it was text messages on the phone that was going bzz, bzz in his ear. So we got that resolved. And now we will go ahead and continue at 6:44 p.m.
So, Mr. Mayor, do you want me to go over the recommendations that I had?
Yes, please, if you would, Dave.
First of all, thanks to Marcus for putting that ordinance together. I agree with quite a bit of what he has to say is the first couple or three paragraphs in the COVID-19 response policy that I put together. However, I don't think it should be an ordinance. An ordinance will take another month to get implemented. We could end up either a whole lot better or a whole lot worse in another month. With that in mind, I guess I would like to have the city council publish a recommendation that all people wear a mask and be at least 6 feet away from some other person. Number 2, businesses are responsible for setting up their own guidelines. People, if you are feeling ill, stay home. Continue to wash your hands often, use hand sanitizer, avoid touching your face. This is basically a public affairs announcement. And people should get a series of the COVID-19 vaccination as soon as possible. In order to set a good example, I would like to see the city of Alcester, the employees, wear a mask when riding in a vehicle with more than one person. And wear a mask if they are in a room with more than 2 people. And a room is like this place. There's a room over there, and there's a room back there. So, or the city garage, or probably the garage up at the cemetery. So if there's more than 2 people, they need to be, people need to be with a mask. And since we usually have more than 10 people here at a city council meeting, I think masks should be required for everybody at a city council meeting from 10 minutes before the start of meeting time until 10 minutes after adjournment. This does not require a first reading, a second reading. It just requires that we approve it and publish a recommendation to our citizens in the paper. And the reason I'm not going the route of an ordinance is since Christmas, South Dakota has had 3 days when new cases have been over 500. December 29th at 501, December 30th at 562, and January 6th at 707. In the last 10 days, the average is about 300, 350 at the most. Union County, the deaths from Christmas until the 14th of December were 30. Since then, it has gone up 6. But we're not like we were in November when the new infection rate was 1,400, 1,300, 1,400. And on November 12th, 2020. So I think we're past right now anyway, we're past the surge. And I don't think an ordinance is going to do what we need to do other than make some people upset.
How are you planning on enforcing, very last line where it says?
Number 3,
Yep.
I would imagine that the people, if they don't have a mask, will be asked to leave.
If they don't leave,
If they don't leave, we have police officers we can call.
so at that point is, like, what are you gonna cite for them to?
Yeah.
If we just tell Jeff, escort this person out, sorry, I keep forgetting you're there, I can't see you.
I mean, if it's a public-owned building, I don't believe, I mean, not against you, Dave, but I don't think I could trespass somebody from a public-owned building when it's not against the law. So,
But if
I
we
mean,
had,
not only is it a public building, but they would be exercising their democratic right to attend a council meeting.
So why is that any different than the $100 fine?
well, I think what I'm saying is, without without an ordinance in effect, there's nothing for them to go on
Right.
to justify them kicking somebody out.
I'm not kicking somebody out.
Um,
It's a public-owned building.
Am I
Reasonable
correct
cost.
in that the school has completely eliminated their mask mandate currently?
They haven't eliminated, I called.
They suspended it,
They
I believe is the
suspended
best
it,
word.
they do not have to wear a mask. They highly recommend they wear masks, but they no longer have.
I think that right there is the best argument for making it a recommendation or a policy, if that's what you want to call it, rather than an ordinance. Now, that's not to say that in 2 days, 2 months, or 2 years, God willing, it's not 2 years, we have to go to something much more, I guess, strict, much more rigid. But I don't see, when we see things like the school suspending their mask policy, why would we now, to me, it feels like if you look at the curve that they keep talking about, we saw this major spike and now it's gone down. Well, now we're going to initiate a mask policy that, it's like we're going to flatten the curve. Well, it's already been flattened. I mean,
Because of policies in place that are requiring people to wear masks. So if you take away all those regulations, you're gonna see that spike go back up.
I also want to push back on the idea that the school has gotten rid of theirs. I know for a fact that they wanted not to, but it is because they already had a policy that made it so if they had 0 cases at the time, they had to switch back. So it's not as simple of a matter of like, oh, they must have thought that they were good. That was their policy. Their policy was created beforehand, said if you get to a certain level of cases, you move up to stage 2. If you get to a certain level of cases, you're at stage 1.
so now it might be a good idea to discuss, Darla. First of all, I'm just going to say, I had a gentleman at the bank contact me directly twice concerning a mask mandate. That was his term. And he was vehemently opposed to it. He did not say that, that he wouldn't comply, but he does know there would be people that wouldn't comply, and it would put stress on whoever it is that's supposed to enforce it.
I don't think either of these requires the bank or any other entity in the city to.
No, he wasn't talking about just in the bank. He was talking about the city. And of course, everybody knows that, I mean, we're talking about trying to set an example here, but everybody knows that entire cities are setting mask mandates. And I don't know, we talked about this before. I sent out that article that was written by the Anchorage, Alaska newspaper regarding Mitchell and the fact that, they struggled. The president of the council was quoted You know, various people from the community were quoted in this article over and over, and it went back and forth and back and forth and made you realize how much of an issue this really is on both sides. And then all of a sudden, they enacted the mask mandate, and immediately upon enacting the mask mandate, took all the teeth out of it. And that's because it's difficult at best to enforce. So, I don't know, I guess that's my 2 cents worth right now. Darla, you had some input?
My input was, a person came up to me yesterday at church and was deadly against it. We talked briefly about it. I said, I am not saying I'm for a mandate, but I said I'm for respect. So if somebody comes up to me and says, would you wear a mask? I wear a mask. When they leave, I take it off. I said, that's how it is at my work. And he said, that's what I mean. If somebody I asked him, in your position that you're in, do you wear a mask if you're asked? He said, yes, I do, but I take it off when they're done. So he would be okay with something like that, but not a mandate. I got called today on the phone by someone from town, and they wanted to know my feelings on it. They do not feel it should be a mandate. It should be, I said, well, I used the word that Dave used, a recommendation, and they said I would go for that.
And if we don't want to do set any guidelines with the employees of the city, eliminate the last part of it. But I think the first, in my opinion, we need to make a recommendation, like the first 5 points there, and publish those, and maybe publish them every week for a month, see what happens.
And I've also heard 2 people called me and said, why are you doing this now? Isn't it a little late?
Yeah.
You know, that is.
Statistics right now
Yeah,
think
and
it is
that's where
late,
they were coming from.
but
Yeah,
next month it might not be.
and that's what I said, well, that's,
You know, college are just starting again.
and I have to say, I've been exposed 3 times. And I just got off another exposure, but my mask has saved me, because I've had a mask on, and so are the people. Knock on wood, it could turn around, but I'm still a believer of masks.
So,
Well, I think we at a bare minimum have to mandate for the locations where our citizens are not aware of who they're all getting exposed to. Every citizen can come into the city office and potentially expose every citizen. And so that's why there should be a mandate for city offices and city buildings that are open to the public that we control. I mean, I'm all willing to to take out the $100 or whatever, but to turn it into just a recommendation doesn't do anything. I don't think that the argument that it's a little late now is necessarily all that perspective, given the fact that we've got 3 different strands of COVID that are all popping back up, one specifically in America. And so, like Dave said, if we want to do a ordinance, it's got to take a month, which means if we wait till it's a problem again, it's going to take another month.
so basically, just correct me if I'm wrong, if Officer Sculler and Chief Christie are sitting in their office and they're working on paperwork, they would have to be wearing masks.
If the building is open for the public to enter, yes.
I don't know if I agree with that. I like Dave's idea that 2 people, they could sit here and work together, just these 2, and still be 6 feet apart.
And
When
the
someone
police are
else
too.
comes in, then I think they would have to put a mask on. I work in an office and we don't wear a mask unless somebody's coming in our door.
Yeah. At Custom Coils, you don't have to wear a mask, it's strongly recommended.
Yeah.
When somebody's coming to take your temperature, they're going to be within 6 feet of you. You will. And there is no, we suggested. You will be wearing a mask, and they will wait a ways away from you until your mask is on, and then they will take your temperature. Yes.
I
Yeah.
think if we have a mandate here in the office that we have to wear it all the time, I think it would be easier to lock the doors to the public. They can do all of they can drop off bills, they can make phone calls. You know, why force us to do something when they're choosing to come in?
That's a good
If we
point,
need
too.
to set up an appointment for a building permit or something like that, we can easily do that, call, and we can set it up, we can have a mask on, whatever the case is. But I don't think we should have to wear one 9 hours out of the day.
So can we take, the second, number 2 in Dave's document and plug that in to the ordinance?
Employees will wear a mask when they're in a room with more than 2 people. The room will be considered to be a space surrounded by walls with a door for entry exit.
And I don't even know if you need that last part. Everybody should know what a room is.
You should.
Just wanted to make it sound legal.
Well, actually, Marcus did the same thing, kind of. I mean, he said, this, you know, under definition, city facilities, and an enclosed building, well, or you could call it a room, if it was just the garage, it's a room.
Is there some way, Marcus, that we can make an ordinance that's gonna be renewable before June 30th? Or in effect until June 30th? I don't like the fact that we don't review this ever so often.
I
You can make it so the ordinance only lasts so long. Like, I didn't include that because I didn't know what we wanted. But, I'm pretty sure the ordinance could only go so long as there's still probably a state of emergency, which Governor Nolan's last, reclamation of a state of emergency had a time limit on it, so and yes, that's possible.
One of the things I think I really like about the verbiage in Dave's response policy is that the policy be reviewed at the first council meeting each month. Now, that reviewing doesn't have to take even more than just a few minutes, but a simple, is everybody in agreement that the policy is still going to remain the same way it is right now? It's basically a little bit of discussion, and if everybody's in agreement, then we go on with the next bullet point in the agenda.
Can you do that with an ordinance though? Wouldn't you have to have a first and second reading to do away with it? Or to change it?
You're talking about the reviewing every meeting?
Yeah.
I think all you're doing is mandating that we have a discussion of it. If you were gonna change it, you'd still have to take action to modify the ordinance. But
Okay.
discussing where we're at and what we ought to do to repeal it, I think
Can you modify the ordinance with a resolution?
is, no.
Could you modify this policy, because it does not say the word ordinance, anytime?
Probably, I mean, what I think Dave is proposing is a lot closer to a resolution. I think you could pass a personnel policy that says you're gonna, everybody's gotta wear a mask in here.
Mayor, can I say
Yes.
something or no? Can I talk, is that all right?
Yes, absolutely.
So I've listened to you guys, and I respect each one of you individually, but we're a government entity. Why are we getting involved in telling people how to take care of themselves for their health and well-being? Now, I know Melissa's stance that me wearing a mask is protecting, so I don't contaminate anybody else. I understand her point, although where does this end? Do we talk to the people that eat too many cheeseburgers? In this country, you're right, if you want to eat a cheeseburger from McDonald's every meal, every day, and balloon up to 400 pounds, you can do that. It's legal. My point is, you want to make a recommendation and try and set good standards, and and give out your best recommendation for the people that live here, outstanding. I'd stand for that 100%. When we're telling people how to take care of themselves and wear a mask, I don't know. They can choose to stay at home and be completely safe if they want to. If you want to go out and about, you do you. It's just that's my stance on it.
So look, if I may just ask your opinion on something. I don't know if you've actually got the document that she just handed out that has
Yeah.
Dave's proposal.
Dave.
All the way down to the bottom, number 3. That sentence or paragraph, maybe it's just a single sentence. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the fact that we're saying anybody that's in here for a city council meeting should be wearing a mask?
Yeah, you can make that recommendation, and you can say it's required, as is. Does it have any teeth? Probably not. Can you ask them to leave? Absolutely. Hey, we'd like you to leave and not work, because you're not wearing a mask. You can ask them that. I don't think there's a lot of teeth behind it,
Right.
but it's a recommendation.
So I wouldn't have the right to physically remove somebody
No, I
from here.
don't believe you would. It's a public-owned building. I'd have a hard time escorting somebody out without a city ordinance behind it. So listen, you pass this ordinance by Marcus. My job is to enforce the city ordinances and the state laws that are on the books. That's my job. I don't like some of it, but it is what it is. Dave's got a recommendation and it says masks will be required at city council meeting. I don't think that gives me enough to haul them out, but we could certainly ask them, listen, we're asking you very respectfully to wear a mask.
Or leave,
Yeah.
one or the other.
And if they don't want to leave,
I guess
they're here.
I guess then they're here and we're just gonna frown at them the entire time. So,
just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
well, this goes right back to the whole,
Well, instead of that last part being guidelines, maybe that could be part of the recommendation. So we recommend that employees, when you're riding in a vehicle with 2 people, have a mask on. We recommend that when 2 people are working in here, it's fine. When the 3rd person walks in, put a mask on. We recommend that masks be used, instead of required, maybe used at city council meetings. But nor we can trash can that whole bottom thing. I guess the important part to me is to publish to the people that, I know they hear it on TV if they listen to the governor in their public announcements, but maybe we need to have something in our local paper saying, listen, we want you to do this here.
well, and we did that just not that long ago. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there, it was a letter that was signed by, I don't even know how many mayors. Wasn't there that in the paper?
Not so much in this paper, but some.
What was in our paper?
It was, but it was.
I signed it. I mean, I electronically signed it.
Yeah.
I want to say it was August or September.
Okay, so it was a few months back. I mean, but I guess that's a good point. Having the information put in our minutes or taking an article out in the paper that says, this is the city's desire for the city of Alcester and everybody, for your own good. We're not saying we're gonna put you in jail, we're not even gonna fine you. We may look at you with a frown on our face for the rest of the night.
What would
Well, we might as well do nothing. I mean, honestly, it's either we're gonna do something or we're gonna do nothing. I don't really see the point
I see what you're saying.
Gordon, as a representative of the local paper, how much would give me an estimate of what a nice size ad would cost?
$40 to $50.
How much?
$40 to $50,
$40 to $50.
which is not too many words.
to get information that they already have every time they look at their phone, turn on their TV,
Yeah.
get
Well, that's-
online, like,
Well, fine,
it's already the recommendation.
okay, then let's move on. I'm not supporting an ordinance.
Okay, so here's the deal. There are 2 sections in here underneath discussion, and I'm not saying discussion is over. There are 2 sections in here that would require a motion to go on if we're going to make a motion and if we're going to act on something. So I guess my question is there a need for more discussion? Or do we now move to letter B, letter C, and then go on with the rest of the meeting?
I just want to make a point that if we wanted to be able to remove people from our offices for failure to abide by our rule, I'm almost certain it has to be an ordinance. If we don't like the way that the ordinance currently has things, like if we think it's too harsh or anything, it's obviously amendable as long as it doesn't substantively change it so that we can have to start over. But like, we can do that because it's got a whole other reading it has to go through.
Okay, so any other discussion?
I still think it would be a good idea to put it in the paper as a recommendation. To me, that's telling them that we have looked at it. We would like them to, they know it, I know, but that's saying that us as a city council has looked at it.
So Gordon, how much does it cost the city to put the entire minutes in the newspaper? Approximately.
About $85 to $100, depending on the length of the minute.
Okay, so the minutes are much higher volume as far as text goes than these two documents. The entire ordinance that Mark has put together and the entire document that Dave submitted as well. Why don't we add that to the minutes, these two documents in their entirety to the minutes, and say, people, this is what we are talking about here. And this is what we've been discussing, so that they know what this mask mandate is, and so that they know what the proposal is, rather than just have them speculate and sit at the bar or sit at the coffee shop and just speculate. Let's give them this information in the newspaper and have them say, oh, that's what they're trying to say here. Because you're right, Melissa, if they watch TV, if they look at their phone, they're going to see some of this information. But is it just going over their head, or are they just not even paying attention to it anymore because it's just blah, 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 and that's all they're hearing? Well, if they see it in our minutes, they should realize that it's something we're considering. And just like we were supposed to have a public forum talking about a sewer that's going to cost us millions of dollars, and very few people showed up, it's time for people to show up and talk about it and deal with it, and then we go on from there.
But I do have to say, all the phone calls and contacts I've got, because they read it in the paper. So, they didn't care about the sewer, but they did care about this.
The discussion about the mask mandate.
Yeah.
But again, that's because it was very vague. All it was just, mask mandate was discussed.
Right, it could be.
I mean, that's not indicating really what it means. What does it say? And I guess that's my point. To be transparent with everybody, they should see it.
Yeah.
They should see it and be able to go, oh, that's not difficult to understand. Or, I don't like that, but this isn't bad. Whichever.
This one Dave's got is almost identical to what I have at work, especially to the employees. So today I called my boss, and I said to her, okay, you put this out to us as your employees. What would happen to me if I said I'm not doing it? She said, nothing. She said, we can't do anything.
That's what I asked.
She said, I hope you respect us enough if you do it. That's how she answered. I called her just today just to see her response.
That's what I asked Van, and he had basically the same thing. I mean, they're not going to fire somebody. They need them to be on the line. They need to get to work. If you're not going to wear a mask, we're going to frown at you all day long. But get to work.
Right.
Mayor Hader, if I may.
Yes.
Do you guys have the capability of putting something on Marketplace? If on the,
I think we can via Facebook, right? Sure.
I would suggest maybe put the language from the ordinance, proposed ordinance, and the suggestion, if that would work.
That's not a bad idea, because I can tell you, putting it in the paper is great, but there are some people that get that paper, read the sports, look at the pictures, look at the obituaries, and then the paper just goes, because that's all they're interested in. The next person gets the paper, and they look at the front page, and they look at the back page, and that's it, or, you know, whatever.
Are you wanting the public to contact you and give you their opinion?
Well, they really should. The public should actually be contacting us directly rather than going through any other conduit to reach the city's ears. They should be talking to these aldermen. They're in their wards. They should be talking to the mayor. That's what they should do if they want to really get our attention. So,
Do we ever so often put in the names of the council members and the phone number contact?
We used to, it hasn't been in the paper for a while, and I'm not sure why, but.
and it was like meeting,
And I know we need to update the school board members as well.
that's something that we
I
could
can see that.
discuss.
I
Yeah,
can,
yeah, that's a good idea. But it is,
The marketplace or Facebook would be a good suggestion.
that's an excellent idea.
Like I said,
And free.
the magic. Me personally, I'm concerned about the variants. And this is the offshoots of the original virus. And those are generally described as fast-moving. And while they may not be as deadly, they're going to take a lot of people down. And the mask appears to have an effect. And I just wanted to put that in. I'm a grandma. I really don't want my grandchild to be exposed to this, or if my parents were still alive, I wouldn't want them. It's public safety, and I understand, but I grew up in the days of polio, and I remember the iron lungs on TV, and
We've had
we
a
didn't
lot of different pandemics
we
that
didn't
we've had to
do
deal with.
enough. We have the capabilities of doing some. Again, this is something new. It's a new thing. We don't know how it's going to act completely. We don't know what's going to happen for those that have already had it, how that's going to affect them long term. But that's my
And it would be my
opinion.
suggestion to do just exactly what she recommended, as well as put it in the paper. So it costs us some money, and it doesn't cost us some money, but it will reach the largest amount of people and get some information out there. Now, that being said, we have 2 bullet points here that require or don't require action, depending upon what we decide tonight. But we're going to decide it quickly, and we're going to go on with the meeting. So,
I'm just curious as to how Linda, Dave, Darla, and Marcus, how you would feel. When I read these, I liked about 50% of each one of them. And I think that if we, maybe Marcus and I as public safety, if we got together with Jeff and Austin and just maybe try to come up with something together, can we give this a different shot at the next meeting?
Yeah.
certainly can. That's only 2 weeks away. How does everybody feel about that?
Marcus, did you hear that?
Yeah, sorry. I'm okay with that.
Linda, what do you think?
Well, I honestly like Dave's proposal better. I like the guidelines better. I'm just afraid this one limits, the ordinance limits everything.
No, I agree.
So I think if you could incorporate the 2 of them, but somewhat, that's my feeling on it.
And it is a good idea to, like you said, I mean, I like a lot of this. I like a lot
Yeah.
of this, but I don't like all of either of them.
No,
So that being said, is there any other discussion regarding that? And if not, we have letter B and letter C. One is a motion to approve the first reading of the ordinance. The other is a motion to approve the mask recommendation. I would need a motion for either or both right now. Do I have a motion? Hearing no motion, we will basically eliminate letters B and letter C right now, and we will revisit this all later. At which point, I now say, I mentioned a little bit ago to put the verbiage of all of these in the paper, in the form of the minutes. Let's not do that. Let's also not put it on the marketplace or anything yet, and give the Public Safety Committee an opportunity to rehash it, so to speak.
So if by chance Melissa and Marcus get it done this week, and I could get it online next week and in the paper next week, would you like that?
Yeah, should
Prior
we
to your meeting?
recirculate that? And if you know, if we don't hear somebody go, no, then we put it in the paper and we put it online?
Yeah, I can do my best. I've got a pretty busy week, and I'm sure Marcus does too.
I'm
but-
sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
Even if it's, I mean, the paper is always very gracious. I can get stuff mailed on Monday and it will still get in the paper. So, if that works. If it doesn't and I don't hear from you, I won't.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Did you hear that, Marcus?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Okay, then we're gonna move on to number 8, Finance Officer, Pat Jurens, updates, plat maps.
So the only thing I wanted to say about the updates is, for those that are, their vacancy is up, or their position is up, and, or if you are talking to other people in your ward to take out a petition, January 29th is the first day that petitions can be taken out. And it's been in the paper, the vacancies, basically it's mayor for 2 years. Ward 1, we have a 3-year term. Ward 2, we have a 1-year term and a 3-year term. And Ward 3 is the 3-year term, which is our vacancy. So,
And if a person gets a petition on the 29th or 30th, whichever day, and they start circulating it, when do they have to have them returned?
has to be in our office on February 26th by 5 p.m. completed. And I don't have the number of signatures yet because I haven't gotten that information from the county. I would expect to get that yet this week or the first part of next week to give you the exact number of signatures
Has to do
needed.
with the numbers in the last election.
That is correct.
I would think it might be 20.
Yeah, it might be higher.
Yeah, could be.
I think last time it was 13.
And then there's plat maps.
Has this already been approved, or do we need it?
The plat maps need to be signed, so planning and commission needs to sign them, and so does the mayor and myself. This will allow this parcel to be moved into 3 pieces.
This is the same thing that we've been discussing for a considerable amount of time. And so it's nothing new. It's just that what we're saying is you're providing us with approval to sign these documents. And then, of course, they would be recorded and we will get an original back. So Marcus, you couldn't see that, but I was holding up a survey plat of the track 1, track 2, and track 3 of this area that I'm sitting in right now. The same map that we've been talking about, and it's the survey plat for this whole city block, basically.
Okay.
Okay.
And you want a motion?
I would need a motion to approve the signatures.
I'll make a motion to approve and put signatures on the survey plat maps representing tract 1, 2, and 3, block 23, original town of Alcester, Union County, South Dakota.
I'll second. Marcus can have it. It's fine.
Marcus, thank you.
Dave made the motion, Marcus seconded it. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Marcus, how do you vote?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And Linda?
Aye.
5 yes. We'll move on to the Alcester Community Building, kitchen equipment purchase.
There's a used kitchen equipment broker in Canton. Didn't realize this until I found out this information in the last few weeks. I stopped up there and visited with this gentleman, looked over a lot of the stuff, or some of the stuff that he has, and it's all good-looking stuff, clean. He makes sure that it's working condition, but he said certain things I don't get very often. I gave him a list of what our clubhouse manager, Mike Croy, suggested we have. And I said, if some of this stuff comes in that you don't get very often, maybe you want to give us a call and we could pick it up, purchase it, and store it until we need it. So that come July or August, it's available. So that's why I asked Pat to put on the agenda a motion to approve spending up to $20,000 for kitchen equipment.
So can you refresh our memories, approximately what were we thinking we were gonna end up spending for kitchen equipment?
Well, if we ended up with what the architect wanted, it was $130,000. But that was all installed, all new stuff.
Right.
So this is gonna be some stuff that's in good condition, used. He said he gets it from some restaurant, places that are going out of business, but he said a lot of it is U.S. government surplus, and it's been taken good care of. And the stuff that I looked at, I didn't check to see that it was, the burners were working, but it really looked like he had cleaned it up, or it was clean and stuff. You want to know what we need?
Well, you already gave us that 100 and X thousand, that's all brand new stuff. Is this 50% of the stuff that we need?
It's a very good
This,
chunk of
this,
this.
this is everything except a beer cooler, like under the counter cooler,
Yeah.
can cooler, and a
Ice.
ice machine. I think there was an ice machine included in that, he had one. But I don't know, we may want to get a new ice machine, since that's something with a condenser.
So let's just pretend if we bought those 2 items those 3 or 4 items brand new, we're still talking another 20K.
No, we're talking, if we get those 3 items brand new, we're talking another $8,000.
Okay, so I'm being really gracious and I'm saying 110 has become $40,000 or less. Gee, where do we go from here?
Mike is coming back in the next couple weeks. So when he comes back and is back in town, I'll get in contact with him and we'll go up and take a look at this stuff and see what he thinks.
So do you want the motion now? Do you think we need to make the motion now so we can reserve?
There's some things he said he doesn't get very often. Deep fat fryers. He didn't have it. We needed 2, according to Mike. And so that would be one thing. He has we need a 12-foot, what's that, hood?
Hood? Yep.
With a fire suppression.
And he's got it.
Well, he doesn't always have it, but,
So he's got it now.
Yeah, well, what he said generally they're about $3,500 from him. So I guess when some of these things that he says are hard to find come up and he contacts us, we need to get up there and look at it the next day and say, okay, we'll take it, haul it down to our storage unit or in the back room here or whatever.
Yep.
So that's,
Rent the room here or something, put it somewhere.
Does he offer any sort of warranties with the stuff they sell?
I didn't ask. I don't probably think so.
I would think not too, but only because he probably really doesn't know their history as much as, well, it looks like it's in great shape and it seems to function. I would assume that's the case.
I guess that's the reason why the beer cooler, the ice machine, and the cake cooler, we thought better
New.
buy those new, because they're the things that are electric and require a condenser.
The things that is on this 15 to 20,000 list is the big griddles and gas stove with 6 burners. So it's that type of equipment that we're looking at right now.
And that
the
hood, if you can get a hood,
And the hood, yeah.
and the
And deep fat
deep fat
fryers.
fryers.
Those are all powered by natural gas. Something could definitely go out, but it's not like an electric heating unit or something.
Or something with a condenser. So, I would need a motion to approve spending up to that amount for used viable kitchen equipment.
I'll make a motion to approve spending up to $20,000 for kitchen equipment.
I'll second that.
The motion has been made by Darla and seconded by Linda. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Marcus, how would you vote?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And Linda?
Aye.
5 yes. So that's good news.
Thank you.
Thank you for running across that. That's sweet. Do we need an executive session pursuant to,
We do for personnel.
for personnel? That would be 125-2-1.
Yes.
All right, we would need a motion.
I'll make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to STCL 125-21.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to go into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2-1 for personnel purposes. Marcus, I want to verify that you are alone on the phone.
I'm on the headphones, so no one else can hear.
Understood?
With the dog, that's literally it.
Okay, and I'm going to shut off my camera as soon as we get this done, but is there any discussion regarding the executive session? Hearing none. Marcus, how do you vote?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And Linda?
Aye.
5 yes. It is 7:30 exactly. We are in executive session.
And Denise, Austin, Jeff, and Wanda will stay.
And I need to run to my car because I forgot all my papers.
Okay? And our legal representative as well? Okay. Marcus has made a motion.
I'll second.
Dave has seconded the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none. Marcus, how do you vote?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Darla?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And Linda?
Aye.
5 yes. We are officially shutting down at 8:17 p.m. Now, I wrote down that we went into recess at 6:40 p.m. and then we came back out of recess at 6:44 p.m. for those of you that